I'm going to put a discount link here in the description to the website that I buy all this fly tying gear off of. If you guys want to check it out, it saves you 15% off at checkout. I also have the link on my channel. Alright, so for this fly, this is going to be one of my favorite streamers. This is what I hands down use more than anything else. But we're going to be tying this on these Moonlit Togata hooks. This is a size number 4. And these are on that website that I linked down below. This will save you that link will save you 15% off at checkout. Alright, let's get tying. Let's see, grab my thread. I'm going to tie 2 versions of this fly. I'm going to tie a smaller pattern and then an articulated pattern. But they're pretty much the same fly. Okay. So we'll start by wrapping this. One thing I love about this pattern is it is a very simple pattern to tie and it goes very quick. And we'll just snip that tag end off right there. Okay, now we're going to take some squirrel tail. Now this is the same stuff I got on that website linked down below. This is from Moonlit Fly Fishing. They're a small company up in Idaho. They sell fly fishing gear and fly tying gear, and they have very fast shipping. Okay, then we'll trim off that end so it looks a little cleaner for the tail. Just like that. We're going to size this up, making it about, oh actually I should probably move my mic a little bit closer. There we go. Hopefully you guys can hear me a little bit better now. So we're going to take our tail and we're going to make this about the same length as the shank of the hook, maybe just a tad longer. And we'll just tie that in the back right there. Do a few wraps to make sure that's nice and secure. And then we'll fold that out of the way. We'll put it in our handy little material holder right here. This thing's super handy. And then we're going to make a loop. Hey, I'm glad you like it, Cali Guy 74. Thanks for watching. Let's see, just Finn. That's a funny joke, man. Alright, we're going to tie a little knot in the front. We're going to whip this around and stow that bobbin out of the way. Then we're going to take our whip finish. I use this as like a little dubbing loop tool. And then we're going to take some of this dubbing. This is some hogfish dubbing that we're going to be using right here. And that's just some brown dubbing with some blue and red flash in it. But we're basically going to just start stuffing it into the dubbing loop. And I lay this on real thick. And we're just going to fill that in real nice. And then once we get that done, we'll just wrap it forward. Okay. Then we're just going to spin that. I might need to add a little bit more on. I think I went a little too light. See if I can't add it on. Yep, I can get that in there. Cool. Alright, we'll keep spinning this, making sure nothing's going to come undone. That should be good right there. Then we're going to take it and we're going to wrap this. Now for those watching that's not quite sure what this is a little sculpin pattern I tie for fly fishing. This is one of my favorite patterns to use. Very effective for catching trout. We're just going to wrap that forward. And like I said earlier, we're laying this on nice and thick. And we go all the way to the front of the hook. Just like that. And then we can drop our bobbin down now, get that out of the way, and we can tighten this down. And we'll just snip that. I'm using some GSP thread right now. This stuff is super strong. It's actually pretty hard for my scissors to cut, but I love this thread. Alright, let's make sure that's still in focus real quick. Sometimes when I start adding on the material, the focus can change. Okay. Alright, now we're going to pull back, and we're going to start folding down those fibers. And we're going to fold over our squirrel tail. And then we're going to secure that in right there. We'll do a loose wrap, and then we'll tighten that down. We pull on it tight, and add a few more wraps to secure it. And there we have it. Okay, we're going to snip that off. And this is really the only tricky part of this fly. We're going to add in a little bit of a collar. So we're going to do another dubbing loop, and we're going to add the collar with the rabbit or the squirrel tail we just tied in. So we'll take that whip finish tool. If you guys have any questions too, feel free to comment them. I am watching the comments, and it's one of the funnest parts about doing these live streams is just chatting with you guys, so love to hear from you. Okay, so right now we're just going to basically snip about an inch worth of that right there. And then we're going to slide it into our dubbing loop. Oops, that popped out. Try that again. Okay, and then we'll snip that piece of leather off, or pelt, whatever you want to call it. We're holding that tight so we don't lose those fibers because they'll fall out real easy. And then we're just going to start twisting that, and that's going to start twisting together. This is a squirrel. The original pattern is called a squirrel bait, but this is a variation I tie. I just call it a squirrel tail. I just tie it a little differently than the original fly. Okay, so then we can just wrap that in, and this is what we're going to do for the collar. Just like that. One more wrap just to secure that down. And then we can take our thread, and we can secure it. Just making sure we're not trapping down any fibers. And we'll snip off that tag end. And then the last thing I do is I'm going to add in a little piece of hackle. So we're going to add in some of this stuff right here. Size that up, make sure those are good fibers. Actually might go a little longer. Yeah, that one's good. And then we're just going to tie that in. And we'll snip that tag end off. Alright, where did I put my hackle pliers? There they are. So now we're just going to wrap this, and as I wrap it, I'm going to fold it back and wrap forward. Oh, let me just slice that off. Oops. It's alright, we can still save this hopefully. Alright, we're just going to tie in a new piece. This got pinched down, and so when I pulled it back, it actually sliced that piece of hackle. Good stuff, man. I subscribed. I bought a 2-bit set of BPMS CPL. Hey, that's awesome. Thanks, Cali Guy 47. Appreciate you for subscribing. If you guys like this style of content, consider subscribing. I do a lot of this stuff, and during the summers, me and my friends, we make a lot of fly fishing films doing these big road trips across the country. So if you guys want to check them out, I've got a few up from last summer, and we got even more planned for this summer. So one of the ones we did was we chased after some bull trout. We did 2 trips up there, and it was a ton of fun. And we plan to go again. It was kind of crazy because we actually ran into this guy that told us he knew a really good spot, but it was like 2 hours away, and we weren't having any luck. So we're like, yeah, man, we'll follow you. We'll check it out. Didn't realize he was taking us back to his, he works for the Shoshone tribes for like he was like some type of fish biologist, but he gave us access to his property. But it was a little freaky rolling into the property because we thought, like, he locked a gate behind us and stuff, and we're like, oh man, this guy's gonna kill us. But he was a super nice guy, and we caught a lot of good fish that trip. He showed us a killer spot, and we plan to go back up there this summer. But that's in my Land of the Bull Trout fishing trip. If it's all on camera, if you guys want to check it out. I believe it's titled The Hunt for Idaho's Most Elusive Trout, is what I've got it titled as. Okay, that's enough wraps right there. So now we'll lock that down with some thread. Oops, there goes the thread. No big deal, we can just tie that back in. To tie in the thread when it breaks is I just wrap it, twist it, wrap it, twist it. I just keep doing that until it's locked in nice and firm. Yeah, that's what we were a little worried about. We were a little worried that's what we did, Manic. But ended up working out for us. You know, they say big risk equals big rewards. He was actually nice enough, too. He let us camp on his property, and he even brought us out breakfast in the morning. He was a super nice guy. Alright, so now we're just going to whip finish that. I'll usually add a couple in there just to make sure it's nice and strong. And we'll snip off that thread. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to tie into the front. We'll kind of pull this bead back, pushing it up against that hackle. And we're going to tie a little thread down to help kind of hold in that bead. And that just kind of gets rid of all the gaps and stuff in it. And then since I'm using white thread, we're going to coat it with a black Sharpie to kind of cover it all up. I tie mostly with white thread just because then I can take a Sharpie and color it however I want. Then I don't have to buy like a ton of different thread colors. Just kind of saves me money. Okay. So now we can snip that off. And that little thread dam right there is holding in that bead. Now we can whip finish it. Then we can snip that off, and then we'll take a Sharpie to it. Let's see, where did I put my Sharpie? I always lose my Sharpie. I cannot find this thing. I should have got this ready before I started tying, but I always forget that part. Got all the other material, just not the Sharpie. Fall on the ground. Tied just a couple days. Oh, there it is. It's on my desk. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so now we're just going to take our Sharpie and we'll just kind of dab that thread. Kind of just letting that Sharpie kind of sink into that white thread. Okay, there we go. Now we'll just take a little bit of UV glue. And this is just to kind of make it a little more durable. And then we'll take a UV light. If you guys have never seen this type of glue before, it only dries when you hit it with a UV light. So this is the Loon stuff right here. And once you hit it with a UV light, that's the only time it cures. So now we'll just hit that with the UV light. And there we have it. That is a squirrel bait, at least the way I like to tie it. And this is hands down one of my best flies. Or not flies, but this is one of my favorite streamers that I use. And I'll use this year round. Let me pull this off so you guys can see it a bit better. But that's what it looks like right there. Guess we can angle it like this. So there it is. Gets great movement in the water. I like to fish this with like really quick, but really short strips. So it just kind of sits there jigging in the water. It looks really good, and I've caught some really nice fish off this. Yeah, Jimmy, if you want to message me privately, we can chat about that. You can hit me up on Instagram. It's just Dallin or you can search up Dr.FlyFilms. Actually, I don't know if I've updated it. I think it's just Dallin for my Instagram at the moment. But I've got it linked on my channel if you just look in the description of my YouTube channel. Okay, let's do... We're going to do the same fly this time, but we're going to add in our articulation to it. Let's see, we're going to tie with a slightly smaller hook for this stinger. Okay, here they are. We're going to be using these B10S stinger hooks right here, size number 6. And that's what we're going to use for the back hook. And then for the front, we're going to still use these Moonlit size number 4 Tagata hooks. If you guys want to check these out, I do have a discount link below. I actually put it in the comment section of this video too. You can find these hooks on that website, and that link will save you 15% off at checkout. And these are, I love tying on these Moonlit hooks. They are razor sharp. Normally I would tie the stinger hook with it too, but I actually ran out of this size. Okay, let's make sure we're all focused up. Okay, there we go. I got a lot of lights in front of me, so it's kind of awkward getting to my camera's LCD screen. Alright, so we'll just start this by just working our thread to the back, making a little nice thread base. And then we'll snip it off. And then to answer your question, Jimmy, I can show you some good spots that are pretty like common, but I'm not going to go into any of my secret spots. Part of the fun of fly fishing is just experimenting and finding spots. But I can give you some spots to get started, if that's what you're looking for. But remember, finding spots, it's like trading cards, you know. Share them with your buddies, not with anybody else. But I'm all for helping people get into this sport. One thing that's a big problem, especially in Utah, is spot burning. You get people that you share a spot with one friend, and then he takes his buddy to it, and then his buddy takes his buddy to it. Next time you know, when you go to fish it, there's going to be like 10 guys in the parking lot. Sadly, that's happened to a lot of really good spots around here in Utah. Alright, so we'll take that, and we're going to tie this tail in. I'm actually going to clip the back off a little bit. just to make it a nice clean tail. And then we'll size this up, making it the length of the hook shank, but maybe just a little bit longer. And we'll make sure our thread's in the very back. And we'll just tie that in. If there's anyone just tuning in, I am tying one of my favorite streamers, but an articulated version of it. This is a variation of the squirrel bait. I actually first found out about this pattern. I was at Sportsman's Warehouse picking up some fly tying gear, and River Wild Flies, I think is what it's called. That's they provide all the flies for Sportsman's Warehouse. They were in doing a little fly tying demo, and so I sat down and they taught me how to tie this pattern. And then over the years, I've just kind of made different variations to it to make it do what I want it to do, and just kind of slowly turned into one of my favorite flies. Okay, now we're going to take, let's see, where's our dubbing at? There it is. So we're going to take some dubbing. This is just hogfish dubbing right here, just brown with some blue and red flash in it, and some green flash. And we're going to do a dubbing loop. So we'll just put our finger right there, fold it over, and then we'll just kind of size it up to the size we want, and then wrap back over that to kind of tighten it. And then we'll get our thread to the front, little knot in front right there so it doesn't go anywhere. And then we'll flip this thing around right here, and this stows my thread out of the way. And then now we're going to take the whip finish tool, or you can use a dubbing loop tool, but I just use my whip finish tool. You can just hook it onto that thread right there. I know that's going to be out of focus, but it's the best I can do. This is a micro lens, so it makes a really sharp, clear picture on the fly, but you can't see really anything else. It's the downside of a micro lens. But it's great for tying small patterns. But yeah, whip finish tools can actually be used for dubbing loops as well. They're quite handy. Now when I put this on, I'm making this nice and thick. I'm just lathering it on there. Don't be shy on the dubbing for this fly because we're trying to give it a lot of body profile like a sculpin. Okay, that should be good right there. Now I'm just going to start twisting that whip finish tool, and then once I release this, it's going to tighten everything up. So we're just going crazy on it. You can see how that all just starts twisting together. And then now we're going to use the rotary function of this vise, and we'll just start wrapping this up. The vise I'm tying on right now is the Nirvana V2 vise. This is a really good kind of budget vise. I think it runs for like 125-ish. I've got a discount link too. It's on that same website I provided that discount link to. And that saves 15% off at checkout. But this is a super awesome vise. I've really enjoyed it. I've actually got another one over here I can show you in a second. Let me finish, get to a spot where I can stop, and I'll show you guys the vise I'm using. I tied for years on just like this cheap vise that came in one of the fly tying kits I got when I was like 13 when I got into this. And when I finally upgraded to something like this, it was game changing. I actually found this company at a fly fishing expo, and I purchased this vise from them, and they had a little deal going on for the expo, and I've really enjoyed it. Alright, now we're going to fold over that rabbit strip, or not rabbit strip, the squirrel tail, or squirrel strip. I don't know, it's like pine squirrel, so whatever you call that. Fold that over, and then we're going to tie it in right there, making sure it's nice and tight. And then we'll do a few wraps to secure it. Hey, that's awesome, Damas stuff. Hope you catch a big one. Fly fishing is a really good time. I will say it is kind of tricky at the start, and it can be a little discouraging, but just stick with it. It is very much worth it. I've been doing normal fishing for like most of my life, and one day I wanted to try fly fishing, and didn't really like it at the start. It was pretty dang hard, but as I kept doing it, I really found that I just really enjoyed it, and now I barely ever use my normal rod. Okay, now we're just going to whip finish that. Then after we get this whip finish, we're going to add on the articulation because we're going to use 2 hooks for this fly. We'll secure that. Give it a little snip. And then we're going to add on a little bit of glue. I'm sorry to hear that, C. Young. And one thing I actually forgot to do was add in a little bit of black Sharpie to kind of fill in that white thread. If you guys are just tuning in, I use white thread for most of my stuff. Just saves me money, so I don't have to keep buying all sorts of different colors of thread for each fly I tie. I can just use white and then color it up with a Sharpie. Okay. And I'll just hit that with the UV light. This glue I'm using only dries when it gets hit by a UV light. So it makes it really handy for fly tying because you can cure it really fast whenever you're ready. Okay, that's good right there. And then real quick, I'll show you guys that vise I was talking about. So this is the V2 vise right here, the Nirvana V2. Really like this vise. The base is maybe like a tad light on it, but it's really not too bad. I actually upgraded the base on mine. I'll show that to you guys. If you guys watch my live streams a lot, I talk about this quite a bit because I'm quite proud of it. But if you look, actually, I'll just grab the camera. I don't want to fiddle with that too much. You guys can see my whole setup. Got a lot of lights, a lot of cameras right here. But I'm basically took the this piece of granite. I got this at a granite shop, and it's just like a cutting board they had cut out. And then I drilled a little hole in there, added some JB weld, and mounted this mounting plate. And then that tie mounted this vise. And so now it's super strong. I can tie really big streamers, and it won't go anywhere. No matter what vise you get, if you're tying really big streamers, it's always going to have a little hard time moving unless it clamps to the table. So if you don't want to clamp, I would recommend modifying your vise like one of these. It is super handy. But the reason I mostly did it was because when I tie these flies, I can't have it shifting on me because the camera's focused on that certain point. And so I don't want it shifting to where I'm going to lose focus, and then I have to fiddle with it and adjust it every time. So this vise just holds it really secure, so I don't have to worry about that as much. All right, let's get back to the fly. So now we're going to tie in some nylon braid. That's what we're going to use for the articulation. So we're going to use some of this right here. You can use backing. You can use just strong fishing line. You can really use whatever you want for articulation. Just make sure it's strong so it doesn't break on you. Because if you get a big fish, you don't want it pulling this through or snapping it off, because then you'll lose the fish. So now we're going to pass this through the eye of the hook right there. Hopefully it didn't get any glue in there. It might have. Yeah, let's poke out the eye. I think I got a little glue in there. Yep. Okay. That is clear. We'll just pass that on through. There it goes. Okay. And then I'm going to add on some orange beads. This is just to kind of help keep the material out of this braid when the fly is being fished. You don't want it getting all tangled up, so the beads just kind of help separate it a little bit. So there's our little beads right there. Okay, now we can take this off. And now we're going to start with our front hook. And then once we get this all set up, then we'll tie in that hook we just did. And then that will be our articulation. And we're going to add a cone bead onto this. And I'm just going to make sure this is in focus. Sorry, it's hard to get to this because I got so much stuff in front of my camera. Okay, there's the button. Okay, we're all set. Also, just a heads up, guys, my camera's getting a little toasty. I'm actually going to open a window real quick before that happens, because if my camera overheats, it kills the live stream. It's going to get cold in here now. It is still pretty cold out here in Utah. All right, so we'll start tying. What's up?
Are you talking to yourself?
No, dude, I'm live streaming.
Oh, okay.
My roommate just came up. He's like, why are you talking to yourself? I'm talking to about 26 people right now.
Ah, nice, bro.
Yep. To those 26 people that are watching this right now, if you guys enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing. I do a lot of fun stuff on this channel. Would love for you guys to check it out. Not just fly tying. I do fly tying in the winter mostly, but once it warms up, I start doing a lot of more like fly fishing film style content on some of our big road trips we do. Okay, so we got that set up. Now we're gonna tie in that tail that we just made. Oh, looks like our live stream cut. I can fix this real quick. Just give me 1 sec. Just gotta kind of reset it. I know I usually work. Turn the camera off, turn it back on. This probably isn't the best for my camera. We'll just size this up. Okay, now we're back in business. So now we're going to tie in this nylon braid. And then once we kind of tie it in, we can kind of pull it and slide it around to where we want it. I like to go right before the beads touch. So about right there should be good. And then I'll crank this pretty tight because you don't want this to pull through if you get a big fish. And then once we get all the way to the front, we'll fold it back. And then we'll just continue to tight wrap it. It's about right there, and that's where I'll snip it off. So another reason I like using this GSP thread is you're not gonna, it's a lot harder to snap this thread than normal thread, so you can really do tight wraps to make sure that's secure. Okay. Now we're gonna add in our squirrel tail again. So we're just gonna kind of size this up, making sure it kind of connects to the back piece a little bit. It's about right there. We'll kind of part the fibers out of the way so you're not trapping anything underneath. We just want to make sure that kind of fills in that gap right back there. Right there should be good. So I'll do a loose wrap, then we'll do another loose wrap, and we can kind of tighten that down a little bit, and then a few more wraps just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. And then we can fold this out of the way, and it's time to add in our dubbing again. If you guys are just watching, I'm using this hogfish dubbing right here. I am really shouting out this company right now, even though I get no benefit from it. I picked their dubbing up at a fly tying expo too. Their dubbing's pretty good. I like it. The squirrel tail I'm actually using though is this stuff right here. And you can find this on that website I linked in the comment section from Moonlit's website. If you use that link, it does actually help this channel because I get affiliate sales from that. So by purchasing it through that link, you'll save 15% off, and I'll make a small commission from it. So it's a win-win. But yeah, they're a great website for all fly tying and fly fishing needs. They've got a little bit of everything over there. All right. We'll just start loading up the dubbing again, just like we did on that tail. We're gonna put it on real thick. If you guys are just tuning in, we're tying a squirrel. This is a squirrel bait fly, but this is kind of like my own variation of that fly. And I've kind of been using it for years, and I've just kind of tweaked it over the years. Okay. Now it's time to just twist that up. We're using a whip finish right now to do this dubbing loop. I've always done this, and I just prefer it. It's funny because I actually own a dubbing loop tool that specializes in this, but I've always just preferred using my whip finish tool. So if you guys are looking to get into fly fishing, don't waste your money on a dubbing loop tool. Just get a whip finish tool. You can use it for knotting the fly and for doing these whip finishes. Or not whip finishes, these dubbing loops. Okay, now we're just going to start wrapping that in. Then you can kind of pull those fibers back as you wrap it, making sure you're not really trapping nothing in there. And we're going all the way to the eye of the hook. And there we have it. Now we're going to get this out of the way. And we're going to tie our thread so we secure that, so when we let go, we don't go nowhere. Had my thread a little bit too long. Let's shorten that up. Okay, we'll make that nice and tight. A few wraps to make sure it don't go nowhere. And snip that off. Okay, now's the fun part. I actually really enjoy this part. I think it's satisfying. So fold all the fibers down. We're going to fold this rabbit or squirrel tail strip. Whatever you call this stuff. It's like rabbit strip, but it's pine squirrel, I believe. And then we're going to tie that in right in the front. So we'll do a kind of a loose wrap. We'll do another loose wrap. Then we can tighten that down. And I do a couple more just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. And then the rest in front to lock it in. And then we can snip this off right there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do another dubbing loop for this part. Actually, first I'm going to tie down that little piece of leather. I didn't quite snip it off close enough. Okay. So now we'll do another dubbing loop. We're going to make this dubbing loop nice and small. And then we're going to use this squirrel tail, or the squirrel strip, to pretty much use it like dubbing. So we'll clip about 1 inch off. So you can see right there I clipped about 1 inch. I'm going to tie that in. Looks like our camera overheated again. Let me just fix this real quick. Should only take a second. I've got the window open in my room now, so that should let some cold air in and hopefully cool down this camera. But I'm live streaming this at 1080 right now, so it's probably getting pretty toasty. Alright, we should be back on in just a second. And there we go. Scout, get down from there. My cat's jumping on things. She's trying to go out the window. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to basically go through with the scissors and we're just going to snip that leather off. And then we can twist it up for our dubbing loop. Just like that. Oh, you got a 3D printed reel? That's cool. My dad does a lot of that 3D printing stuff. He actually 3D printed me this right here. This thing's kind of cool. It's for fishing line. So what you do is you stick the fishing line in here when you're done, like when you have like scrap fishing line, and then you just twist that top and it wraps the fishing line right inside, and then it stores it in that tube so you don't have it getting all over the place or getting caught in the zippers on your backpack, because you don't want to litter that stuff. And then we're just wrapping that in. And that's kind of creating the collar for this fly. And then we're also going to add in a little bit of hackle to finish off that collar. Just to make the fly extra fancy. To be honest, if you don't have hackle, this fly will fish. How it is right now, it will fish very well. I just like to add in a little bit of hackle just because I like a nice pretty fly. I tie flies, one, for fly fishing, but two, I just enjoy the kind of the artsy side of it. Alright, so we'll take some of this hackle right here. And we're using this stuff. We're going to take a nice thick piece on there. I really like to build up the collar on these because this is a sculpin imitation, so you want it to be pretty thick up top and then taper the way back so you get a nice silhouette on the fly. There we go, that's a good piece. So then I'll snip that. I'm going to part just a little bit. And then we'll stick it right in there and we'll tie it down with our thread. Now we're just going to take some hackle pliers, clip that on, and then we'll just start wrapping. Now as I wrap, I'm going to kind of fold those fibers back. Oops, popped out. That's okay. We'll just retie this in. It's one of the perks of watching the live streams. You guys get to see me mess up all the time. When I do my normal videos, I can cut it out. But live stream is as real as it gets. Hopefully we don't pop it out this time. And as I wrap that, I just kind of fluff it up. And we're just kind of building up that collar. So that's about good right there. So we'll secure that with our thread. And then we'll snip off that excess hackle that we don't need. And then, where's our whip finish tool? There it is. Okay, now we're just going to whip finish. That's going to finish off this part of the fly. But I am going to add in a little bit on the front. I'm going to show you a cool trick to how you can make sure that bead doesn't wobble around without having to use wire. Just got to get this whip finished first. Tighten that down. Then we'll snip our thread off. And I'm going to add in a little bit of UV glue there, just to kind of help hold everything together in there. Let that kind of soak into the threads, and then we'll hit it with this UV light. If you guys are just watching, this UV glue, I think it's really cool because it only dries the second a UV light hits it. Makes it very handy for fly tying. Okay, should be good right there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our thread. Actually, I'll use this thread. Oh, here we go. Here's some thicker stuff. I'm going to use GSP thread, but this is just a little thicker GSP thread. What we're going to do is we're going to build up a little thread dam in front right here. And this is going to push back. Oh, looks like the camera died again. I am so sorry about this, guys. Sadly, camera overheating is out of my control. It's just kind of something that happens. Especially when I've been live streaming this long. I think we're probably getting close to an hour. Alright, there it is. If you guys have any comments too, drop them in the comment section. I'd love to chat with you guys. Okay, now that we got that thread in, we can really push this back and kind of close up that front, and then we build a thread dam to hold that bead in, and that's going to keep that cone bead from wobbling around. Just like that, and then we're going to whip finish it. Snipping off that thread. This GSP thread's hard to cut, especially with this thick stuff. There it is. And then we're just going to color that up with the Sharpie again. If you guys are new, I use this Sharpie and white thread just to make it black, because I am too cheap to buy black thread apparently. But if you always buy white thread and you got a whole bunch of Sharpie colors, you can just color the thread however you want it. And you don't got to spend a whole bunch of money on all sorts of different colors of thread. There's a little fly fishing hack for you. What's up, Scout? You want to say hi? Where'd you go? There. No, off the table. This is my cat right here. Oh, it's my wife's cat, but we're married now, so I guess she's my cat. But she is a menace. She loves getting into all these feathers, and anytime I open my door, she comes in here and makes a huge mess. So, right there, she was trying to jump out the window, except there's a screen on it, so she technically can't do that, but she'll still try. I don't know if you guys got cats, but they are fun and also pretty crazy sometimes. Okay, we're gonna add on some UV glue. And that's just to make this thread just even more durable. And we can kind of fold that down. And it looks like we got some in the eye of the hook. So what I'll do is I'll just pop this in there, and then I'll just cure it with that in the eye of the hook. That way we don't accidentally glue the opening of the eye of the hook shut. When you run out of white thread. I guess buy more, or if you got some sewing thread, use some of that. To answer it, just never run out of white thread. Stock up. Alright guys, there we have it. So this right here is an articulated squirrel tail. I really enjoy using this fly. And actually, one more thing I'm going to do to it. I forgot to mention this. Let's see. Got something I'm going to do to it. I just got to figure out where I put it. There it is. So we're going to take a piece of Velcro. I forgot to do this to the first fly that we tied. But we're just going to brush open that dubbin. Make those dubbin strands nice and long. Then we can hit that back fly too on that stinger hook. And this just makes sure that there's no trapped fibers and things like that. Well, now you know it, Manic. I hope it helps you out. Okay. Alright, and then I'll pull this off the vise so you guys can kind of see it. So now that tail's kind of out of the screen. I'll move my head out of the way. But that's the fly right there. I'll get that so you guys can see the tail too. Actually, we'll do this. And that's kind of what it looks like. It's pretty messy, but that's the whole point of this fly. When this thing gets wet, it looks really good in the water, and this thing gets amazing movement. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, like, subscribe. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's what makes all this. I mean, I wouldn't say it's what makes it worth it, but you know, when you do these videos and you invest all this time into it, it's fun to have people to chat with, and you know, it's nice to see the videos I put all the hard work in doing well. So, hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll